or sits next to you or behind you. I am your cousin, I am your aunt, your wife, your sister, or your daughter. And I was raped on the first date with the guy I thought I knew. I was excited to go out with this popular guy, well known, and I even bought a new outfit. I planned everything and everything was going fine until he took me somewhere where there was more people around. And then after that, everything went badly. Now I am ashamed, embarrassed, and scared. I cry at the fact that I cannot face my family, friends, school, or even my daily tasks as a normal person should. The way I jump when a guy even comes in contact with me. And the way his friends look at me in a way that makes me feel uncomfortable. I wish I could just have my life back. Does anyone know why anyone would hurt someone like that? Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. With this in mind, it is important to realize the current punishment for rapists is inadequate to reflect the crime being committed. Today, we will learn about how high studies about rape are in today's society. We will also learn what the California state law says and states upon the punishment of these criminals. Thereupon, we will hear about how there has been we'll hear about one of the cases that, out of so many that have been unfair and they're just not right. In view of many studies and surveys, reporters reported each year 237,868 victims. There are 237,868 victims each year. 60% are not reported. This is actually one of the highest crimes underreported, which leads to 97% of rapists will never spend a day in jail. Approximately 2/3 of assaults are committed by someone known to the victim. According to a website named RAIN, which stands for Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, states all these statistics. Now, the California state law under Penal Code 261 states that rape is a felony, and the judge may impose a prison sentence of 3, 6, or even 8 years. And they may even pay a fine of $10,000. It also states that they cannot receive probation and not go to jail. They will serve time in prison. There are, though, many factors that may help lower prison time. And it also states that 85% of the sentence received will be served. The most compelling evidence is that more than 150 convicted rapists have gone on to attack again within the last 5 years of their release from prison. For example, the serial pillowcase rapist was one of the recent cases here in California. A guy named Christopher Hubbard, age 63, raped 26 women in 1972. He was released in 1979, then sentenced again in 1982 for 16 years, but was released in 1990, which is really unfair. He then again returned in that same year and got out in 1993, again for the same crime being committed, of rape. He was then put in custody in 1996 and was released early this year. As can be seen, the obvious analysis of low sentences to prison for rapists is clearly inadequate. The official data also shows a sharp increase in the numbers of rapists released from prison every year. People are still paying a price. Victims of rape and their families get a life sentence. So why don't these rapists get a life sentence as well?
All right, Sarah, what did you think?
I thought it was like a really touching personal experience. You had a really good attention grabber. I didn't know where you were going with it, so like really different things were going through my mind. I knew the rate was high, but I didn't know the statistics were that high. So I liked how like you brought it to the surface. I think if you had more of a preview, I would kind of understand where your speech was going. You had a clear projection of your voice, and I hardly heard any fillers.
All right, I thought you had some pretty strong emotional appeals. I do think that the introduction goes on a little long. I think you might want to indicate before you get started that you are quoting in this particular experience here so that people understand that you're trying to get the complete quote in. I thought the transition with the statistic afterwards worked really well. We know what your value topic is. That part was stated pretty clearly. I did hear a preview in the structure, so that's good. Internally, I think you needed to have that structure highlighted a little bit more. The details about the statistics, you do provide a source on that. I appreciated that. The California Penal Code, that's okay. Also, the argument about why it's insufficient needs to be stronger. It seems to me a little strange that if we've got people who are repeatedly committing these crimes, the example of the pillowcase rapist, I'm wondering why is it that his multiple convictions have not resulted in a three-strike argument in this situation. There may be some exemption that's going on because they occurred in the past, they were grandfathered out or something like that, because it sounds like this guy's had multiple convictions. There's an argument here that maybe the system is failing as opposed to the punishments. The bigger issue, though, I think that you need to develop more is the notion that this is an underreported crime and that the victims often suffer without being able to do much about it. I think it would be helpful if you could build an argument here that kind of directed victims in some way as to how they could channel their situation, especially if they're not going to report the crime. I think that that's problematic. Reporting the crime would make a lot of sense, and that might deter some of the offenders from doing things, and it might put some of them in jail. But it seems to me like you build up this argument that this is a horrific crime, and then the only answer to it is that the punishments are inadequate for the ones that get convicted. Well, you yourself pointed out that very few get convicted, and the ones that do get convicted don't serve a very long sentence, and that's where you spend most of your time on the argument. It seems like the other part of the argument is really where the strongest development of your issue was. I do think the particular case, if you wanted to talk about the inadequacies of the laws, instead of talking about your example of the date rape that happened at the beginning, or the fact that people are assaulted by people that they know. I assume that the pillowcase rapist is not somebody that people knew, that this is a violent offender who is preying on people randomly, as opposed to, they're in a dating pool and everybody knows them at work and they just let it go on and on and on. That's not really what's going on there. You got two kind of different issues there. Pick one and work on that. That would make the most sense to me. All right.